Well, good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, June the 29th, 2022. And you know what time it is Wisdom Wednesday podcast with Dr. Mary Segars. As you know, we've been honoring fathers for the entire month of June. And I saved the best for last, this very last Wednesday of this month. And I have a powerhouse of fathers today. But before I introduce these wonderful men, I want you know the drill. Grab your coffee cup, your tea, orange juice, or water, and join in on the conversation. Let me first of all introduce you to none other than my husband, Ezzell Segars. Welcome, honey.
Hi, how you guys doing? Hope we have a great broadcast. My wife is something special. You're gonna enjoy yourself and have fun.
All right, let me tell you a little more about that wonderful man. Of course, I'm a little biased. He is my first love, my husband of 50 plus years. And so he's an excellent father of our two adult daughters. According to Micah and Ernest, he's the best papa in the world. So I agree with all of those, right? But more than that, he's a man of integrity. He loves the Lord. He's shown examples of how to live a godly life. And so also he says what he means and he means what he say. He doesn't mince his words at all. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me introduce you to my next guest, and that is Jay Moseberry. He's an Army veteran and currently a data scientist with a consumer-centric focus in the automotive industry. As a father of both adult and school-age children ranging from 6 to 23 years old, he believes that being a father teaches you a lot about yourself as a man. Jay said that is his opinion. Children should be treated like little people, not order takers. And I totally agree with that. I remember when I was young, Mary, come and change the channel. Mary, come do this. So, our children are more than that, right? I want to welcome you, Jay, as well. So glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
All
Thank
right.
you for inviting me.
Yes. And last but certainly not least, it's like a family gathering. Now, this is my nephew who I always honored him and know he's a powerful man who loves what he does. And let me tell you a little more about Donald Sled, also known as Tony. He's been married for 21 years. He's been in the military. They have beautiful children. I think they have 6 children. I call it a little mini tribe there. Huh? He's been 23 years on his job. He's a real estate investor. And I also know he was doing some day trading. He's a very intelligent young man. Has some college. His favorite books to read is always pertaining to historical facts. So with that, I want to welcome you, Donald. How are you this morning?
I'm great, Dr. Mary.
Oh, wow. I'm not used to that. But having the Auntie Mary right now. Listen. I am so excited about this crew we got today. Like I said, we saved the best for last. So let me just start out. Maybe I'll ask the question with my husband. How would you define fatherhood? And before you answer that, let me just share with you, all of you guys, that during the month of June, I put an acronym out there about what father could represent. F stands for faithful. A stands for available. T stands for teacher. H stands for hero. I think every girl needs your father to be a hero. E stands for encouragement. And R stands for role model. Does any of those words resonate with you, Ezzell, when I talk about fathers?
Yeah, what resonates to me most is me being a child of God. That's the most important thing in life. Yeah. Second, somebody who inspire people, inspire your children, your wife, and everything. That's why my wife is a PhD, because I inspired her to do that. My children, I'm still working with you. My grandchildren is doing great things in life. Yeah. I have to inspire, I have to encourage, and sometimes I have to discipline. But being a father is a tough job, but it's the most important job on this earth besides being a mother. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay, can I get a response from you? How would you define father?
I love that acronym. Like that's powerful. I would say that it's being a provider, but I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to watch They Call Me Dad. It was it came out maybe sometime late last year, I want to say, but you had the likes of T.D. Jakes, Kurt Franklin, some awesome dads that they're celebrities, right? So um, that's why people tuned in.
Mhm.
But I believe it was T.D. Jakes that said, being a provider is something that men get taught when you grow up, but defining it is what's really important. It's not just being a provider where most men think I'm paying the bills, I'm making sure we have a roof over our head. It's not just that, it's providing everything that everyone in the family needs, whether that's comfort, whether that's security, love, dependability, providing in the true sense of the word. So for me, that's one of the definitions of being a father.
Wow, that's powerful. Thanks for sharing. What about for you, Tony?
We know you guys have used most of my words, but I was going to come on and say being available
Yes.
and being supportive.
Mm.
You can always be available, but you can't always be supportive. But for those cases that you can, you have to be supportive. Like for instance, sometimes you raise your children, in a straight and narrow path, and then when they get 18, they make a left or a right. So you can always be available. Like my mother, she was always available. I had a house to live in. I had money if I needed it, but she didn't always support me in my nonsense. But then when she could support me, she did wholeheartedly. So we as parents, I believe, as far as fatherhood, is to be available and to be supportive when you can. And of course, be a teacher and be a provider and those things as well.
Yes, yes. It's not an easy job. That's why I admire fathers. They always give mother more credence, but father is like the headship of the family. So let me ask you this, and we'll start with Jay for this question. Why do you think some fathers want to be their children's friends rather than being their father? And what is the repercussion of that?
I think that that's something that developed over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
My father was unconcerned with being my friend. It was that old school kind of rearing and parenting, right? So I think that nowadays, especially because you're also having more people or more individuals having children younger, they don't know anything else. They have a group of friends that they're with. They've got siblings that they've been friends with, and they don't understand that there's a paradigm there that has to be established, right? Because my parents used to say, if you make me choose between being your parent and your friend, I'm gonna be your parent every time.
All right.
There's a certain level of authority and power that comes along when you establish that parental role, where it's I need you to trust me. I need you to hear me. I tell my youngest all the time, the 23-year-olds, they laugh when they hear the baby hear this. But I tell my youngest all the time, I need you to, Tony, kind of like when you're in the military, when I say something, I need you to execute it, because you may not always know the situation that we're going to be in, right? And I don't need you, while I'll provide you with some background every now and then, because I want thinkers. I want to develop my children to be thinkers. I also don't need you to question every single thing in that moment, because sometimes it just needs to be done for safety reasons.
That's right. Yes. I know my mother say, just do what I say and not, don't ask no why. We never could ask that question, why?
It's a balance, because like I said, you still want to treat them like little people. But when they're this age, when they're 5, 6, that they're still young children, they need to have a little more of that, because I said so.
Right. Because they're developing still. Yeah. So true. Great answer. What about for you, Tony? Same question.
What was the question? Sorry, what was the question again?
I said, why do you think some fathers want their children? Yeah.
Well, like there's some dynamics in some relationships where you have good cop, bad cop with the parents. And right now I happen to be the bad cop and my wife is the good cop. So she gets all the accolades and, all the adoration and stuff like that. And I'm just assuming, because I haven't seen it that often, but I'm just assuming in some relationships, they're playing good cop, bad cop, and the father gets to be the good cop. And he's going around being a friend, and the wife is going around doing all the disciplinary action and stuff like that. But I think also I've seen a dynamic of where there's a step parent, where the step parent who doesn't live with the child They get to play good cop all the time. They get to be the child's friend. And you're at home doing all the disciplinary action and stuff like that. And you get the blunt of all the, rebellious activities or whatever. But
right.
I don't know if they necessarily, I just think sometimes that role just fall in your lap. As far as good cop, bad cop, and, being a child's friend, you have that ability.
Absolutely. Great answer. What about for you, Ezzell? Do you think it's important for parents to be the parents and not to be the friends of their, for their children?
Well, I was raised by my grandparents, and they was mostly, my grandfather was a disciplinarian, so that old school way, you do what I say and don't question me, and if you don't do, I'm gonna hit you with this cane. So I got hit a couple of times, so I know it is to be get hit by and not just obey him. Today, people are more like, they'd like to be socialization. They want to be social. They want to be their friend. But it takes more than a friend. It takes a real parent to raise these children these days. Yeah. It's tougher to raise children these days because of the internet, TV, the cell phone, the so-called friends. So your way, you have to really drive that discipline, that hard work, that going to school every day, that speaking, that says good morning, good afternoon, good evening every day. So it's harder these days, but you can do it because a lot of folks are doing it every day. So today is special, but you still can do it.
Yes, because if we think about it, our children are our future leaders. We're instilling leadership skills and coping skills and critical thinking in our children. And you can't be a friend sometimes when you can't be a friend when you want to do those things for our next generation. Okay, let me ask the next question. We'll start with Tony this time. Is it important to demonstrate acceptable behaviors before your children rather than do what I say and not what I do?
Absolutely. I think children, as they get older and, develop their own little way of life and they experiment, they're going to need something to draw to. And I think that's the example that you led when they were younger. They're going to stray and they're going to experiment in life. But at some point, they're going to need to know what actually works. And that's going to be the example that you set in your household, as far as even, how you interact with your wife, as far as relationships. You going to work every day, you investing, you going outside the house, showing them how to, do whatever it is you do. As far as like me personally, I do real estate. So I take them around and let them see how I interact with the tenants. And, and then when they're trying to run some mumbo jumbo on me or whatever the case. But I think leading by example in the long run will be real good for them.
I totally agree. What about for you, Ezzell, to demonstrate that acceptable behavior, in front of your children? How do you feel about that rather than do what I say and not what I do? What is your take on that?
Well, I was raised by my grandparents, so I really wasn't taught nothing. Just go to school and get you a job early because you got nothing. So, but anyway, only thing I can do is try to teach them how to do it the right way. And the right way is, but in my head, a lot of times made a lot of mistakes. I had to learn by doing. That's the best learning there is. So the only thing I do is set the example, motivate you, and try to get you to do it right. If you don't, just come back and ask questions. Always emphasize asking questions to the parents, the teachers, whoever. Only way you can learn is ask.
That's right.
And you also got to have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Okay. Keep your mouth closed and listen. You learn more listening than you can talking.
That's true. And we got 2 eyes, right? Sometimes you can just learn by observing too. So excellent. I agree. What about for you, Jay? Same question.
I feel privileged now being able to wait for you guys to go because I'm getting all these other different ideas. I mean, what we're kind of actually building on here is it really does come down to leadership, right? Like you see leaders at work, and especially again, young leaders, they have a problem sometimes not being the friend, especially when they're promoted from being right next to the guy. I used to be elbow to elbow with these guys, and now I'm their boss. They still want to be the friend, right? But then Tony, brought up the fact of, kind of through leading by example and showing them around. And then, Ezzell is saying how, you want to make sure that the individual is learning the right way, right? And making sure that they are listening more than speaking. Yeah. To me, if we try to kind of, put that in a nice tight package, it really kind of focuses back on the fact that who's teaching our young men how to be leaders. Wow. And instilling in them those fundamentals of things like Stephen Covey says it best. There's his book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. One of those habits is seek to understand before being understood. Yes. Right. And I think as parents, especially as fathers, because fathers are used to being the ones that lay down the law, right? We're the head of that household. Right. It's sometimes we have to remind ourselves, again, these are little people. And I need to understand how this child learns. Mm-hmm. I learn by seeing and doing. I have one of my children learns by just hearing. My oldest son, he just wants me to talk to him and then he'll digest it. We have to meet them where they are, because the old way of parenting, there's some good there, but we need to bring in, some of these new learning styles so that the kids will adapt, soak it in, and then we can recorrect. So true. Wow. Yes, that's powerful. Fathers, listen in, because you're learning some good techniques and strategies from these powerful fathers. I'm just enjoying this conversation. Now, just to do a little shift here, I don't mean to throw anybody off, but we're talking about fatherhood. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself and your career and your business, and maybe services that you can offer to the podcast audience? Let me just say this, being a father, you still have to pursue your dreams and your goals. How do you spend time with yourself and make sure self-care is engaged? So we'll start there with you, Tony. I don't mean to throw a monkey wrench in, but when
I had my first daughter, I had to make a conscious effort as to not be too busy that I can't spend time with her. Yeah. When I noticed what was going on around us, when I had her in the car, there was just certain music I just couldn't listen to anymore. Wow. And I think having a daughter can really help to change my life, change my perspective on life. Mm-hmm. So even though I have 28 years on my job, and I used to work a lot. I used to work like 12 hours, 7 days. And I said, once my daughter get to a certain age, once she gets like 5-ish, I'm going to cut out all that overtime, only if necessary. Yeah. So I had to balance working a factory job, buying real estate, right, having a wife, and then the kids just start multiplying back to back to back. And once the kids got so, once they start multiplying, I had to really give up some of the real estate. Yeah. As because family first. Yeah. I wasn't going to put myself out there chasing money, and then having my family, be without a father. Because my father wasn't around in my teen years, and those years when you really need that advice. Right. I didn't want to make that same mistake. So I prioritized putting family first. Yeah. And that's how I balance work. I put my family first and work is second. But you still want to take vacations and do things. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So it was just, as needed. Not, it wasn't my life to work. I know guys that's in the factories and they work 12 hours, 7 days for 20 and 30 years. Wow. I mean, I didn't want to be that guy. So I had to put my priorities in order. Yeah, that's why I honor you. So I see how he's connected with his family. He's a true family man. I tell you, I'm not just saying that. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I honor you for that. So yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. Okay, we'll switch over to Jay and then Ezzell last on this one. Jay, what about for you?
I echo what Tony is saying. I think again, kind of going back to what fathers are, especially young Black men, a lot of times what gets instilled in you is you need to be the earner. You better make sure that things are taken care of. You kind of feel like society looks at you as, and my wife and I talk about this a lot, is that if you don't have a home, if something's going wrong that has something to do with the finances, that's daddy's fault, right? If the kids are sick or malnourished, then everybody's looking to blame mama. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes dads kind of come into it with this kind of boulder over their shoulder that I have to work, I have to grind. Similar to Tony, I don't know when you know, I had your father, but I lost my dad at 21. So I immediately, now I've got 2 kids, 3 jobs, have no idea really what I'm doing except for these kids got to eat. And I became a workaholic, you know, similar to what Tony is saying. I mean, my kids saw more of the back of my head, but full bellies than they saw me. And now there's this shift where I finally started getting it, and around their teenage years started giving them more of that quality time and being, you know, more present, and making sure that I could teach them things more than just how to make a dollar. With that, showing them, you know, what it is to be a person, you know, teaching children emotional intelligence is something that is not done enough, right? How to express their emotions so that they don't get into, you know, conflicts, or if they do, how to handle it without it having to become physical. With that, you're kind of asking about some of the things that we do. I have a men's group that's what we work on. We talk about emotional intelligence. We're there to support each other so that you don't feel overwhelmed. We're there to talk about, you know, our marriages and whatnot. I have a data consulting business that I'm starting, you know, to help individuals with that, teaching kids how to code. And then I love singing and photography. So if you're saying how folks, and what we're doing and how folks can get in touch with me, I can be reached at jmoseberry.pro@gmail.com. It's JAY and then Moseberry, MOSEBERRY.pro@gmail.com. It's just these kids really are our future. Like it's been said in songs, you know, you hear it at church, but we have to live that.
Yes, that's powerful. Yes, absolutely. I see the sign behind you, work hard. So you really do
work hard, stay humble.
Right. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. What about for you, honey?
Would you repeat that question, please? Jay, you took a young man, you are inspiring, but the question needs to be repeated to me, okay?
Sure, absolutely. I almost forgot the question too. I said, you know, oftentimes we're so busy trying to make sure we engage with our children, but you have your own aspiration, your own you know, desires to live your life, be it career-wise and all that. I know he's a financial guru. Every time we go somewhere, they say, who did your portfolio? I look at my husband and said, you know, you've done a phenomenal job. So how do you balance that in your life? You know, how do you parentinghood as well as your own aspirations and desires in life? You know, he had his own business several times before. He's a true entrepreneur. So go on and take it from there.
Me being a child of the highest God, most of my problems I take to God because I can't solve all my problems. I really can't.
That's right.
So I have to pray. I have to ask for help. I have to go out here and inspire my children. Tell them that, you know, I came up the hard way. I had nothing, so I had to go out there and get it early. Nobody gave me nothing, so I had to go out there and get it. I had to work hard like these guys doing. I had to invest. I had to read, and I had to ask questions. So it's not easy being a father, but you can change people's lives too by inspiring them. And me and Mary and I went to Steve's about 20 years ago, and this young man came up to me. He said, Mr. Segars. I said, how you doing? You grown now. Look at you. He said, you know what? Even though my mom and daddy was going through divorce, I always said I felt safe with you. I said, what? And he said, we was playing basketball in the back of the yard, used to barbecue, and you inspired me to and talk to me, inspired me to go to school. Don't worry about the noise at home, and get out of the house like I did at 19, and do your own thing. He said, you inspired me to become a teacher. I'm a Detroit public teacher now. Wow. I said, you know, I forgot his name. I said, I'm so proud of you, young man. I had no idea. The only thing I was doing was trying to have fun with you, because you was a young guy. You was what, about 10 years old, and I wasn't that old. I was 21 or 22. Yeah. And the boy he really he really changed my life a little bit. 'Cause you don't know
Impact.
who you really influence in this world. So
That's
that
right.
show you that being a father, being a man of God, being a man, family man like I am, been married 51 years. I say I was born married. That's where I am. Inspiring this young man really made me feel pretty good that day.
I remember that. Yes. You never know who in life you impact, by just being showing encouragement and strength. Yeah, that was powerful. I remember that. So guys, is there any closing words you want to have to the audience? I appreciate this. I tell you, I think that I did say the best for last. You guys have you ever thought about writing a book or writing your story? Somebody said, you don't know my story, I know women are quick to raise their hand about they want to share their story, but men, I think men, they, allow themselves to share their story, it could impact so many lives and change, especially young men, especially young Black men. I have a 16-year-old grandson, and you got to teach him differently than how you teach another young man, how to, when you're out here driving your car, how to be polite to the police and do what they say. I mean, it's just all of that. It's just all of that. Did you guys ever experience anything like that coming up, Tony?
Oh, like I said before, being raised and my father not being in my life at that particular time, I went through the rites of passage. I went through the rites of passage of ghetto life per se. I indulged in a lot of activities when I was younger before I came into the knowledge of understanding Christ. And I'm gonna tell you, there's a big void in the community, and I think that is mentorship. Mentorship is so important. And you're right, even being an example to your family, you don't understand how many other people you are impacting and by accident. And you can impact even more if you try to impact more, because these young men, they need leadership. And we know leadership, most of our great leaders were once great followers. Your Malcolm X's, your Martin Luther Kings, your pastors, your CEOs. And these kids, when they don't have that leadership, they do things on the job training. They got to figure it out as they go. And you make so many mistakes in that process. And some are able to be saved and some are not. Some end up in making very bad decisions that affect the rest of their lives. So I just believe mentorship is just such a great void. And I think more of us should make it, just purposely go out there and try to be mentors to these young men.
Yes. Jay, I see you shaking your head in concurrence. You want to add any more comments to that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really blessed to have been invited here. I'm finding, more and more as Tony speaks, and he and I are like-minded on a lot of things, that mentorship is really key. And it's doing it at every opportunity that you have, not being afraid to kind of do like it was back in the day. I couldn't mess up on my grandmother's block without anybody feeling comfortable, coming out and saying, "Come here, young man," and correcting me on the spot. So I think even in those micro moments that we experience every day, for instance, I got a young man right next door to me. 2 times over the course of 3 weeks, he came and got my garbage, my cans out from the front curb, brought it to the back, walked over to him and his brother, gave him $5, said, "Hey, if this is something you want to do on a regular basis, let me know, I'll pay you." Doing it. I said, "Hey, look, you've been doing it on a regular basis. I haven't had to ask you. If you guys want me to help you build a little website, get you one of those little apps, you could start a little business all up and down this block and the next one." Teaching them to understand the value of hard work. Also understand, hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with manual labor, but experience it young, so that when you're older, if that's not what you want to do, understand you need to hit those books.
That's right.
Seeing a young man, we went out on a 2K walk for multiple sclerosis for a friend of mine who's diagnosed with that. And it was a young man there who kept asking his mother for her gloves. Said, "Mama, I'm cold. I need your gloves." So I gave him mine. I said, "Listen, young man, you never ask your mother to do without. Never ask your mother to do without. You make sure that mama's always good." And I gave him my gloves. But just as Tony was saying, just with that mentorship, teaching these young men in every single moment that you have, not waiting for it.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. Power. Honey, you want to add on to anything with that? That was so powerful.
Now, these two young men are very inspiring. I just, nobody taught me nothing. I didn't have nothing. I grew up, I had to go get it for myself young. So I made a lot of mistakes. Only thing I did was go out there and studied and asked questions. I kept my mouth shut and just kept on listening and learning and looking. And that really made me better. So I raised my family. We did well. We was middle class in our 20s. We traveled all over the country. And that's not important. The most important thing to me is teaching these children, teaching them right, inspiring them. I made a lot of mistakes because I wasn't taught nothing, but I got up and went out there and learned what I had to do and did it. And believe me, it wasn't easy, but I did it with somebody that had 10 kids that were raised dirt poor, didn't have nothing, and came up and did pretty good in my 20s. I had a new car at 20 years old. I had a house at 22. So I've been blessed. I don't think I could give it all to God because He's the one that really brought me this far.
Yes.
That's all I have to say, sweetheart.
All right, honey. Sorry for all of that, you guys. But just listening to you guys, I've just enjoyed this immensely. I tell you, I truly do believe I saved the best for last. But I don't want you all to leave without having last words to the audience, how they can reach out to you. I'm just thinking about your website, Jay. Do you do websites and all that too? Huh? So be sure to tell us all about that. And we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Tony, and then we'll go to my husband. So thank you again for, and I honor you as a father, honor you as a powerful Black man, all of you all, for doing what you was destined to do, and keep doing it and get out there and let the world know that there are some great, powerful fathers and Black men that are doing their calling. So we'll start with you, Jay. And again, thank you for coming.
Thank you again for having me. I would like to just say that if there's anybody out there that is looking, as Tony said, for mentorship, whether you've got some young men that you like to put someone else in their life and just like be able to have someone to talk to, whether it's meetups or just even over the phone, Zoom, or anything like that, reach out to me. I'm available. I'd also do music, as far as like music production. As I said, I work well with data. So if you're someone trying to learn that or need some help there, give me a buzz. My contact information is probably best by email. Again, it's JAY Moseberry, which is moseberry.pro@gmail.com.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. What about for you, Tony?
As far as, I just think that to encourage men out there, that some things are just not in your control. You can be the best example and just, I always tell my kids, trust the process.
Yes.
Because sometimes you can over wisdom. They just get tired of hearing you. You know what I'm saying? They say, what good is wisdom if nobody will listen to you? So sometimes I have to slow down, but just tell them, just trust the process. Yeah. And for men out there, just keep doing what you're doing. I think, like they say, if you train up a child the way they should go, when they get older, they won't depart. And it doesn't mean when they get 21, they might be 40 when they learn.
Right.
I knew a lady years ago. She was on welfare most of her life, or her whole adult life. She got 45 years old. She got tired of being on welfare. She just decided to go to college. She became an RN. She got off welfare. She bought her a big old house, a big car. So you just gotta trust the process. I mean, your kids, you just be the best example you can, and just let it do what it do.
Yes, great wisdom. Thank you. And we'll let you close it out, honey. Any words of wisdom you want to share?
Only thing I can say is I had a lot of problems growing up. The only thing I did when I became a child of God, all my problems when I got saved, I put it in God's hand. I do a lot of praying. I asked God to help me in a lot of stuff because I made a lot of mistakes. I butted my head a lot because I wasn't taught nothing. Right. But I came through it because of God, reading and studying. That helped. That got me through all these problems I had. Even though my children sometimes wouldn't listen to me all the time, I did the best I could. Yeah. And I did did pretty good with my wife. She's a PhD right now, so I must have did something right. You know, and I did pretty good in my life, so I can't complain. The only thing I can say is keep asking questions and listening.
Yeah.
And that'll help you a lot in life. Okay. Thank you.
And with that, I tell you, when you kept saying keep asking questions, there's a good book that by John Maxwell that says a successful people ask questions, and it's a great book. That's how you learn. You know, life is all about learning, right? Again, I want to thank my guests. I just honor you all as for being great, powerful men and fathers. And just a little tidbit, next month is the 7th month of this year already, and we're going to do like a 7-month checkup. Have you accomplished your goals? Have you set out what you determined to do? So look forward to that, and have a blessed summer. Be safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you again.